Hi, Martha. Hi, everyone. Sorry, it wouldn't be a virtual meeting without some sort of last-second glitch. Thank you for sending around the meeting invite again. I'm not sure what happened.
That's okay.
USDOT is in the process of migrating our email from Microsoft to Google, and I'm just going to attribute it to that because our email hasn't been a seamless transition.
Okay. I'll be anxious to hear what you think about the Google choice.
On the record or off the record?
Absolutely.
Well, it's only been a few days, so I don't think I have enough of a baseline. But like anything else, when you're switching platforms of technology, there's an adjustment period, and
I think there's also like no application set that does it all. I mean, everything is hard.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not sure anything has the functionality we all want and need. So yes. This is something to strive for. And thank you to everyone who's in the room and online. Thanks for your patience. I expect we'll just get started here in a couple minutes. Martha, did we have anyone join in the room from the CTAC or members of our stakeholder or parties?
Yes, we have a small number of folks that are here in person and online.
Terrific.
We do have a sign-in sheet for people that come in person. I think we'll be able to capture who joined virtually by the registration. So we'll be able to provide that to you all after the meeting.
You beat me to it. We were going to ask if someone could pass around a sign-in sheet and then capture the digital or virtual attendance. Without further ado, I think we can get started. This is a continuation of our conversation. So do we have everyone on the Federal Review team in the meeting room? I see Ivan, I see Mac. I know Colby had a drop, Kevin, Taylor, and Laura also. So I think we have on our side who we need. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining this evening and afternoon. My name is Dan Koenig. I'm a community planner with the Federal Transit Administration, and I will allow Ivan and Mac, the two other federal team members, to introduce themselves as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's well. My name is Ivan Rucker, and I'm the statewide planner and freight program manager with the Federal Highway Administration Virginia Division Office. We're located on 8th Street in the Federal Building. Good to see everyone.
Yep, so I'm Matt Frost. I'm also with the Federal Highway Administration. I'm in our headquarters office in DC in the Office of Planning, but I support Ivan in the Virginia Division.
Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Ivan. So you might be wondering what the purpose of the meeting is, what we're, the Federal Transit and the Federal Highway Administration have requested, comment for. We have a very short presentation for any of those that are part of the CTAC that participated at lunch today. This presentation will be very familiar. We're going to go through a handful of slides about the purpose of the federal certification review, and we will be allowing sort of a open dialogue and discussion if you have questions. So I'll take pauses as we go through this presentation to see if there's questions or clarification needed. This is a very short deck, and I'm going to try to speak to a lot of it in plain language that avoids using acronyms and just makes this sort of relatable in terms of what the federal process is and what brings us here today. So let me go to our next slide. This is just a short disclaimer. I'm not going to read it. For those that are looking, you can read it. This is just simply a standard disclaimer we put into presentation. So As I mentioned, we did introductions already, and we're gathered here today for what is the quadrennial federal certification review. Every 4 years, the Federal Highway Administration, the Federal Transit Administration is required to certify the metropolitan planning process of a transportation management area, which are areas that have populations in excess of 200,000. That transportation management area is the Richmond, Virginia Transportation Management Area, and it's served by 2 MPOs, the RRTPO and the Tri-Cities MPO. I know I said I was going to try to avoid acronyms, but I think most here are familiar with those 2 acronyms. We spent yesterday with the Tri-Cities MPO doing a site visit, and then we spent today with the RRTPO doing our site visit. And those site visits are collectively part of the federal certification review process, where we are sort of reviewing and evaluating how the MPO is performing and doing with respect to the transportation metropolitan planning requirements. One of the requirements of the certification process is for the Federal Highway and Federal Transit Administration to hold a public meeting to invite comment on how well we think the MPO is doing or not with respect to those transportation planning requirements. So today, there was representation from both Federal Highways and Federal Transit and our Volpe Resource Center, helping to review parts of the MPO and their planning products. We concluded the site visit portion just about an hour ago, and we went over a number of different topic areas. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on a later slide in terms of what the breadth of our review is, but these are the names of the federal review team that participated today. You met Ivan and Mac just now, and myself. This again is just restating the purpose of the certification review. It's done on a 4-year basis. We last did this in 2022. I'm not sure if anyone in the room or online was a part of that, either as a member of the public or a CTAC stakeholder, but you might be familiar with this process, perhaps. But it does happen every 4 years. So this slide, I think, just quickly captures sort of I don't want to say steps, but you can think of them as parts of the process in order to accomplish the federal certification review. The federal review team begins by doing a desk audit or desk review of the MPO planning products, and we utilize a risk-based approach that essentially has us look at the certification report and findings that we did the 4 years prior, and from that we help inform which areas we may need to evaluate further. So we started that process a couple of months ago, and we started looking at the report and findings, looking at the different planning documents, areas that there might have been findings, and from that we determined which areas we were going to study and further as part of the desktop, and then site visit, which is sort of the second part of the process here. This whole certification review will culminate in sort of 2 things: a letter recertifying or certifying that the metropolitan planning organizations meet the requirements or fulfilling the responsibilities, and then we'll issue a report. And that report will be for both metropolitan planning organizations that serve the Richmond TMA, which again is Tri-Cities and RRTPO. So I'm just going to take a pause, because I promised I would do that, to see if there's questions or anything anyone wants clarification on before I advance the slides. And I'll also invite Ivan and Mac at any point in time I get something wrong, which I'm certainly known to do. Do feel free to jump in. We're intending this to be sort of more of a conversation versus just a presentation, but I promise you there aren't that many more slides. So this again just captures the outcomes, the certification of the MPO. as part of the certification process and the report, there's essentially 3 findings that we make within the report itself. We make formal recommendations that are, suggestions to the metropolitan planning organizations on areas that they may look to improve upon. We make commendations, which are areas that we think are, going rather well, and we think that the MPO deserves, credit and kudos for, based on, sort of a national perspective and understanding of, how these functions are performed elsewhere around the country. And we also make corrective actions, which are not too common or frequent. There was a corrective action for the Tri-Cities MPO 4 years ago that was addressed. And in the eventual report that we'll issue, that will be, again, inclusive of both MPOs, we will include recommendations, commendations, and potential corrective actions. And so we may certify with a corrective action as part of the culmination of the process. And there's always the not certify, which, we've explained is a very, very rare circumstance. I'm not aware of the U.S. Department of Transportation not certifying a transportation management area. I'm not sure if this remedy or power has ever been invoked. It maybe has throughout the history of our authorizing legislation, but that is not something we anticipate for either MPO within the transportation management area. So let me advance slides. In case I'm sorry, did someone say something?
Hey, Dan, how you doing? This is Ivan. No, I just wanted to add some context to the corrective action. So in the event that we issue a corrective action, it basically means that the MPO is it's not meeting something that's spelled out in federal statute or regulation. So those are the instances in which we would issue a corrective action. I'm sorry, Dan. I just wanted to add that as part of your discussion.
No, Ivan, your feedback's always welcome. So thank you. I did want to highlight for any out there that like to read federal statute and regulation. The federal planning metropolitan planning regulation is codified at 23 CFR Code of Federal Regulation, Part 450. If you were to Google that, you would find there all of the planning regulations and requirements. So this site is included here. Again, there's no need to go to that regulation unless you need some nighttime reading and help falling asleep.
Right.
But that again is where all of this is born from.
And I'm sorry, Dan, let me add on to that. Certainly, of course, we have federal non-discrimination statutes that apply to anyone who is receiving federal funding, whether it's $10,000, $5,000, or even 1 cent. If you receive a dime of federal money, you're obligated to comply with federal non-discrimination statutes, Title VI, ADA, and so forth. I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead, please.
No, thank you, Ivan, for reinforcing that. This slide captures a bit about the metropolitan planning process. Again, there at the top right corner is the site and regulation for anyone that wants to go there and see what these respective requirements are. All of the various planning products that you might be aware of or involved with the MPO are grounded in regulation. Each one of these sort of columns and boxes represents some different parts of the planning process. I'm not going to reread or regurgitate these to everyone. I did want to emphasize on the third box on who is involved that the metropolitan planning process is everyone. It is inclusive of the MPO, transit operators, the local jurisdictions, the federal partners, citizen groups, the public, and that again just underscores the reason why we're here today. So the metropolitan planning process is a large umbrella. It's inclusive of a lot of people. And in the fourth box, oh, I'm sorry.
Dan, you're fine.
Okay. The fourth box, you might see peppered throughout things that the RRTPO does, 3C, which stands for Continuing Cooperative and Comprehensive Planning. That's something that we are trying to ensure is being done. So if you see 3C, anywhere that again is sort of one of the spirits of the planning process that we're trying to ensure is followed. I'm going to advance to the next slide. So here are several or some of the planning products that the MPO or Metropolitan Planning Organization does. These are just a couple of them. There are quite a few. The significant ones include the long-range transportation plan, in that if you've been involved with the MPO recently, you might know that they are in the process of updating their 2050 plan to their 2050 plan. Their last plan was the 2045 plan. I apologize, I don't know the titles of those offhand, but I know we have Miles and Martha in the room, so they can chime in. But there's a number of other work products, and each of those work products, generally speaking, have certain touch points and requirements for the public to participate. And we learned today from our site visit and our desktop review that there's been a lot of robust engagement by the RRTPO and its CTAC and its members to seek comment on a lot of their planning products. And you might be familiar with some of these. You might have participated in meetings, you might have provided comments, or maybe you haven't yet and you are hoping to at some point in time, in which case that's great too. So there's not much else on this slide. This is a graphic that I'm not particularly in love with, but I think, again, this speaks to sort of the cyclical nature of the planning process, how all of these parts are interrelated, and how we are heavily reliant on public involvement in the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And the reason I'm not in love with graphics like these is sometimes I just not sure what I'm supposed to draw from this. But I want you to just understand again that, one of the pillars of the Metropolitan Planning Organization process is public involvement and input. And we learned a bit about what, the Richmond MPO is doing in that realm. So that, I think, is all for that slide. So this brings us to the end, where we, ask questions of those that are participating in the meeting this afternoon, evening, in terms of, how adequate of an opportunity do you feel like you've had to participate in the Metropolitan Planning Organization process? Have you been involved in the MPO transportation planning process before, or are you hoping to be more involved? And what are your views of the process? Now, we'll allow folks to answer those, and I want to mention that we are, again, accepting comment on the process and as part of the certification review, and we are accepting comment for up to 3 weeks from today, concluding on March 20th, if I'm not mistaken, Ivan. Is that right? Or is it March 21st?
It's the 20th or 21st. I think it's on that last slide. And certainly we can circle back to this one.
Yeah. So just recognize that while you may not have a comment at this moment in time, you may need to take some opportunity to explore and understand. If you aren't already familiar with the Metropolitan Planning Organization process, you may go back and look at things and then want to comment later in time, in which we welcome that. So, this is an open question to the participants that are there in the room, that are online. If you feel like you've had an adequate opportunity to participate in the Metropolitan Planning Organization process. And when I say, the Metropolitan Planning Transportation Organization process, that is, again, almost all of the planning products that the MPO does, including the long-range plan, their unified planning work program, a host of things. So I'm going to stop rattling on for a moment and just see if there's any sort of general feedback from the participants, whether online or in the room, about how easy of an opportunity it has been to participate overall.
I can talk first, because why not? My name is David. I am the Adventure Programs Manager with Blue Sky Fund, and we had the opportunity to work, do some collaboration with Plan RVA. I think early in 2025, around February, I think, or maybe it was April, March, I can't remember exactly. And we got to have Holly Gordon come by our office, and she led a kind of presentation with our high school group about different transportation kind of topics in the area, and then got an insight into, you know, what are some things that they would want to see improved, or what are some kind of areas that they've noticed have a lot of traffic and could just use some more attention towards them. But overall, I thought it was pretty informative. It got our participants thinking about things in a different way that they had before, and Holly presented a lot of information on how we could continue to be involved in the process and kind of ways where, you know, it felt like our time and actions with that was valuable feedback that could be used later on. And there was another time that we participated with a Plan RVA event, but I'm not as familiar with that one. That was maybe 3 years ago now, and I think it was closer related to climate change in some capacity, but just how those are. But that's what I can remember for the most part.
Thank you. And you said Blue Sky, is that a nonprofit organization, or is that a
Yeah, Blue Sky Fund is a local Richmond nonprofit focused on providing transformational experiences for Richmond area youth through outdoor adventure and education.
Great.
Can I go ahead? I'm Jacob. I'm with a group called Strong Towns RVA, and I've always been blown away at the great work that Plan RVA does. Not only do they help us when we have something in our head that we want to do, they help us figure out where we can fit into the process, but they also help us immerse ourselves into the complicated world of transportation planning, which is definitely not an easy task. And they're always super responsive. And just a great recipient of federal funds. That's
great feedback. And I'm sorry, Jacob, you said you're with whom again?
So we're a group called Strong Towns RVA. We just updated our list of things that we do, so I can't rattle it off as neatly as some other folks, but we focus on transportation access and transportation funding, among a slew of other things.
Great. Thank you for your comment and share and participation. Deborah, you're online. You've had your hand up patiently, so I'd invite you to come off mute and share with us, please.
Sure. Hi, my name is Debbie Preston. I work for Hanover County local government. We have Hanover Dash Specialized Transportation that's been in existence since December of 2019. So we just completed 6 years. And we work, of course, with our partners with TRPT and Plan RVA. I'm the Director of Community Resources. Susan Richards is the Hanover Dash Manager. She is out of town this week, so I did want to report out because I know we work closely with Plan RVA, Susan particularly. And what she wanted me to share is that she did participate in the Rural Transportation Analysis Study Advisory Committee. She was pleased with the sincere engagement that Dan Mata from Plan RVA demonstrated and would be happy to work with him again. She also worked with Will Heller and Ken Lance on the GRTC microtransit studies in both Ashland and Mechanicsville, which are in Hanover County. And additionally, she worked with Will as he was seeking input for Hanover Dash transportation projects to include in their TIP for fiscal year 27, fiscal year 30. And lastly, she participated with activities at the Plan RVA Days over the past few years, connecting directly with Kristen Hutt. And she wanted to share, it's always great to connect and work with the staff at Plan RVA and look forward to any further collaborations, but she could not be here today.
Thank you, Debbie.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like there's been a breadth of experiences working with Plan RVA and the MPO, rural, nonprofit, youth-focused organizations. That's all very positive to hear.
I'll add some perspective. My name is Cameron McPherson. I work at a local public relations agency called the Hodges Partnership. We're a consultant with Plan RVA, but I'll share this perspective as a resident who likes to engage and learn about different topics. I have always been impressed how Plan RVA and it shows up in the community by organizing events, just to kind of educate folks like the Transportation Forum. It gives people an opportunity to learn about the planning process and how they can engage. I also read their newsletter on their email newsletter on a monthly basis and talk about a variety of topics, but especially related to transportation. There's good recaps from meetings. Helps people just like understand how they can add input as well. I also see them at different community festivals that they haven't necessarily organized themselves, but in terms of tabling. And then I've also seen them in the news media too, just different newsletters that I'm subscribed to, encouraging people to share their feedback on different transportation planning surveys, so forth.
Thank you. We learned today, Miles, Martha, you explained that you have, as part of your public participation plan, a commitment to going to where people are, and it sounds like that's working rather well.
We're gonna reach all million of them.
So the third question here, what are your views of the process? It's hard to distill. It is, and I can't remember which commenter it was, mentioned that it is a complex process. And, when a metropolitan planning organization helps relate and simplify that, we find it, to be one, more inclusive, easier to participate. It lowers the barrier. Do you have an example of how, or some of the things that you've experienced that have made it easier to participate, or what your overall view on that process was? Which again, most have been positive, but examples would be great, or any additional shares folks might have.
I've been across the region, just going to different public meetings of all the different localities. And Plan RVA does one of the best jobs in our region of having really compliant open meetings, and not only complying with the law and allowing access, but really encouraging access and getting folks in the room. So I'm always very complimentary of them.
Thank you. Martha, I saw in the chat you said who should comments be sent to. I will drop our emails into the chat. They're also up on the screen. You can email us directly your comments. We will capture those as part of the CERT report and process. I think I spelled both our names correctly. I believe so. Thank you, Martha.
Hey, Dan, I wonder if we could expound on that last question about regarding the process, and maybe just perhaps get into some of your thoughts on just transportation in general, Richmond region. What are your thoughts on transportation, connectivity, the diverse multimodalism? Any thoughts on that?
My name is Frank Cardella. I'm Economic Mobility Director at United Way Greater Richmond and Petersburg, and we partner with Plan RVA significantly in a major regional initiative called RVA Rising. And one of the things that I think is really a critical component of that is understanding how the connective tissue of the region drives economic opportunity. And so you can talk about transportation planning simply from an X's and O's perspective, right, but also the mobility of people within the region to get to jobs, to get from jobs to home, to school, to healthcare, and to have the mobility between such a large and diverse geographic region that drives economic opportunity for all folks. And one of the things I will also say that we really appreciated that partnership is that this is a public-private partnership. It is philanthropy, it is local governance, it is the business community through the chamber, through Plan RVA, through Community Foundation for a Greater Richmond, United Way, Richmond Memorial Health Foundation. So there's a really large umbrella for people to plug into. And again, Plan RVA really makes access to that very easy for people.
Speak more about the views of the process, I would want to say that the staff at Plan RVA are really communicative and present opportunities of, where we could get involved. I think I had gotten a contact or business card from Holly Gordon, years ago when I did stuff, and then we had followed up and was able to make something. So, Holly was really great to work with to coordinate an event for our high school students in particular that was just for them. And, we really like that as a way where we could have a in-depth process on things that are actionable in the Richmond area as it relates to outdoor access and equability. And so we use that opportunity to talk about things like, a bike lane construction and, providing more access to transportation that does not require a vehicle. Or if you are using a vehicle, public transportation that's available and, the routes and things that are available. I believe that we talked about how, where could a new bus stop be at? And it seems really small, but that was great. But even at those bus stops, what can we add there that's not just a sign there? You can have, some kind of covered place to sit down, which if you've ever needed to take a bus, you are more likely to do so on a nice day rather than a really cold, rainy day. So those were great feedback points that we could share. And yeah, I just want to extend how Holly made it very presentable and did it concisely in a manner that our high school students could really get a hold of. And yeah, definitely looking forward to more opportunities in the future to collaborate and work together as, the Richmond region continues to grow, but so does the diverse economic background of participants. So it'd be great to make it so that the city is accessible for everybody.
Yeah, I'll just add that I like Holly always puts together these creative engagement programs that usually involve Post-it notes and
Convening in big
Yeah.
setup,
Yes, exactly.
around. Yeah.
And I think the cool part about that too is that we're often in small groups, so it's an opportunity for people around the region to meet each other. So I just appreciate the intentionality that the team brings to those sessions.
Kristen as well.
Yes, Kristen, yeah.
She's great. And one event that I love every year is I say every year, I've only been 1 year, but one event that I love is the regional symposium that happens every year. Hugely impactful event because, we do have a lot of groups in the area, but we don't often get the chance to be in the same room and connect with one another.
I'm curious if anyone in the room or online is a participant in any of the development of the 2050 Metropolitan Transportation Plan or the Long Range Transportation Plan that Richmond is currently developing. If you are curious how that process or involvement might be going, or you might not be involved, and that's perfectly fine too.
Dan, just for context, I think the meetings last fall or last winter and spring were related to issues identification for this LRTP. So I think a lot of the meetings we've been hearing about so far were the early stages of the current planning effort.
Okay. Okay.
And the symposium is March 13th. So I think a lot of people in this room and online are registered to attend that. So they don't know what sticky note and math exercise has. put together.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's,
And they have a
good
great
context.
way of involving people in that as well. Holly and Barbara literally said, "Oh, you're coming to that? Great. You're also going to be on the panel." And so they have a tendency to know who's showing up
Good.
and know who's paying attention and what they're doing, and then they invite you back. So there's really a lot of, one of the things I love about working with them is there's no ego in it. And it's great to see the community invited to be experts in the process as well. It's a shared expertise.
Oh.
I like that.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I get a lot of emails, not too many, but a great amount of emails from Plan RVA. And I'm not sure if I've sent, this specific product you mentioned out, but I've definitely sent in the past, all the great public engagement opportunities that they send out. So if that's already out, then I've sent it out. And people have participated, and if it's not, then that's in the pipeline.
Yeah, this is all great feedback. What we typically do as part of the certification review is we host these public meetings in tandem with the MPO and have them help us get people so we can get this feedback. What I think we understand is that the time frame that we really wanted to capture people sort of maybe on their way home or still at work and could log in and see was 5 to 6:30. And so this presentation, if we add or subtract anybody, can be given again, or that overview if anyone new has entered the room there or online. Again, we're ultimately listening to you and the feedback you may have. If you again think of comments, I'll put back up on the screen our emails. They're still in our chat, in the chat. The great feedback you provided today, we're taking notes on it. And Martha, are we transcribing this?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So, we will capture and summarize the feedback and comments we've gotten today to, be reflected in the ultimate report. That's all I was gonna, come here to say just right now. I'm sorry if I cut someone off.
We'll send the information about to whom and the period of time that input can be submitted out. There was a little bit of discussion today about whether we can get it included in our newsletter that drops on Friday. So we're working through that. But if it doesn't get included on the newsletter, we'll send it out to our contacts list that we announced today's meeting to follow up. So also anybody who's participated today you'll get this information. So you can have access if you have something you want to follow up with directly with an email.
That's great. We appreciate your assistance and help in broadcasting this in order to try to get, folks that might not have been available for this. We typically try to provide a lot more runway before we schedule these, and we just didn't have the capacity to advertise this as far in advance as we would normally. So we are very appreciative of the folks that have participated, whether you were part of the CTAC folks at noon to 1 or you're here this afternoon and evening. It's been great to sort of get the collective feedback, and it does seem like there's a large footprint that the RRTPO is making in the entire region that is makes up the Metropolitan Planning Organization, all of the counties. And it sounds holistically like those experiences are generally very positive. So that's good to hear. I will say, Ivan and I have been part of certification reviews where some of the feedback has not been as positive, and but it's generally speaking to process improvements, how to encourage more input and stuff. So again, it's great to hear that all of these experiences reflect good outcomes. So we are making ourselves available to collect your feedback, thoughts. You know, we are also able to answer questions. There was no more information in the presentation. We are going to, again, be available in here for about another 45 minutes in case we add anyone else. Again, you're welcome to come off mute or ask questions of us, or, you know, share additional perspective, and also, you know, send us comments.
Daniel, well, let me ask everyone in attendance, is it, I guess, typically we don't, I don't know, Daniel, maybe in the past we have, but usually during the public comment period for citizens that have signed the sheet signing sheet, I don't know if we typically send off the final report to the citizens sign the signing sheet, but if there's some interest in the final report, I'm assuming you would like a copy of that. Okay, well, if for everyone on that would sign the sign-in sheet, Daniel, we make an effort to ensure that they receive a copy of the final report.
Sure, and I if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Miles, you currently have up on your website the report from 4 years ago, and I believe Tri-Cities MPO does too. Am I right, Miles?
Yes, that's correct. We posted, and it'll probably be in the newsletters that have been mentioned already.
Good, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think we typically do send it to the parties that have commented. It is, you know, oftentimes made publicly available on websites as part of newsletters, as you know, so I'm on board with that, of course, as well. So that sounds good to me. And just so folks understand, again, just to rehash a little bit of the process. So today, as I mentioned, was the site visit that we just concluded a little over, you know, an hour and a half ago. We'll go back and synthesize the information that we got from yesterday's site visit with the Tri-Cities MPO and today with the RRTPO. We will write up our report and findings and observations. Over the next few weeks, we have a requirement to recertify the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization, which is a lot more to say than the RRTPO, but we need to recertify this MPO by next week. And so we will certify and then issue our report later in time. That report, I think, will be ready. We are targeting, if not the report, the takeaways for the policy board meeting on April 23rd. Is that right, Martha?
Yes. Yes, the meeting's April 23rd. This is, sorry, I'm talking out loud. The policy board won't need to take action, right? There's no.
No.
Yeah, so we don't need to worry about including it in the packet.
No, go ahead,
Yeah.
Ivan.
No, I'm sorry. I'm thinking at the April meeting, I think we want to just give a summary report on the findings, and then I'm assuming give a little additional mention that we don't need additional time to deliver the final report. But for that April meeting, it would just be a brief presentation on on the certification review report in general, and then I guess the substance of the findings.
We can talk through this later, but I mean, I think we would put you as an item on the agenda as opposed to just having you cover it in your normal time.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
Are you okay with that, Daniel?
Oh yeah. I mean, you know, who presents your policy board? It sometimes is the, you know, division administrator, or sometimes, you know, the regional administrator, or those who are delegated. So if you just put a placeholder, Martha, on the agenda for us, someone from, you know, Federal Highway or Federal Transit will present the findings and takeaways of this certification review process. But it's a non-action item. It's an informational item.
Thanks, Dan.
And so once we do issue that report for both MPOs and, you know, send those 2 certification letters, one to Tri-Cities, one to RRTPO, we're collectively done for 4 years at the federal level. But then, you know, both the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization and the Tri-Cities MPO would be, you know, working on, you know, potential recommendations that are included in that report, possible corrective actions if we have any. And then, you know, there might be some observations we make that might not rise to the level of a recommendation, but might be, you know, some possible areas of consideration for improvement that, you know, are really that, just, you know, for your consideration. And we wouldn't really begin the process again until sometime late 2029, early 2030, which is, you know, hard to wrap your brain around, but that's again the 4-year cycle that we're on. And each of the other transportation management areas in the Commonwealth are on different schedules generally. So, you know, it's staggered. We're not doing these all at once, but that's just to kind of give you a higher level perspective in terms of, you know, the other metropolitan planning organizations that are transportation management areas, meaning their populations are in excess of 200,000, what, you know, how it works with them. So we'll be doing the same thing. Maybe not myself, but others from both federal highways and federal transit. So.
And then let me also add, in the report, well, as part of Dan's presentation, he talked about the 3C process, continue, cooperate, and coordinate. When we do these reviews, with that understanding, it's just not a review of the MPO. It's a review of all of the partners that help, in this case, the policy board, prepare and produce the required products, whether we talk about the long range transportation plan or the TIP. MPO just doesn't do it alone. The best example I'd like to give is the MPO in developing a list of projects for their long range transportation plan needs revenue projections. Those revenue projections come from the state DOT, VDOT. So, for example, if we were to conduct a certification review and we were to inquire about, well, where are the lack of projects, and the MPO would respond, well, we never got our revenue projections to build our project list, then obviously that will be a finding, right, to the state DOT that will be contained in the report. Like I said, this review is not just a review of the MPO, review of all partners that are responsible for assisting in putting together a product. So I just wanted to add that, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, we had GRTC, Greater Richmond Transit, is it company? Greater Richmond Transit, yeah.
Yes.
We had the VDOT was on with us. We had the VRDPT, or Virginia Department of Rail and Public Transportation. So we did have a number of other parties that were, you know, on with us today from the state and localities that are part of this review. So that's a good point to underscore. And to be clear, I mean, most often, you know, we largely conduct these mostly in person with some virtual attendance. You know, there's been sort of a restructuring and clawback of some of our travel funds. So, you know, I hate presenting virtually from afar and not being there to, you know, learn and see and meet, but that is what it is at this moment in time. So, you know, thankfully we all got very used to hosting hybrid meetings during the pandemic, and, you know, we did do certification reviews during the pandemic entirely virtual. So the ability exists, but I would always prefer to be there in person. So there isn't anything else for us again to present. We are here for you to talk about the metropolitan planning and transportation process. If you have questions, if you have, you know, we can sit and wait to see if we get anything. We're not going anywhere for the next half hour. you know, so we can talk about, I don't know, it's spring training or, you know, for baseball. No, I'm just kidding. But,
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
absolutely. And thank you for participating. You know, we realize that folks live busy lives. They have a lot of other things. So participation is really critical, especially in these moments. So thank you, you know, for those of you that are here, and we do encourage comment, feedback, and participation. So
Thank you.
You know, thank
Yeah,
you very much.
you all.
Appreciate it.
How's it going? Have we met before? I don't think so.
Absolutely. I guess it cost me a wine.
I'm sorry, what?
You said a little bit.
Well,
Well,
Katina is
yeah, so,
officially a certified sommelier.
A little bit, yeah.
And so as part of our Black History celebration, she was conducting.
We get, we get a lot of people to the cars for now.
Yeah, of course.
But I put that in there. So it's good. So what do you do?
Stay with planning.
I guess.
I don't know. Like those, transit, statewide here. Okay. So
So she's actually like at 5 o'clock today, she was conducting a
and folks that are online with us, you know, you're welcome to hang on if you have questions. Again, there's folks that are going to stay in the room and be available. And if you sign off, thank you. I think was it Debbie? You provided a comment, so thank you. Ivan, were you trying to say something? Hey, Ivan, Mac, if someone can come off mute, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah,
Oh, thank
we're
you.
just chatting in the room.
Oh, no, that's fine. And Wood, I didn't acknowledge you earlier. I saw when you stood up, you were there, so thank you.
Yeah, you got to get the back of the head view all day, didn't we?
Yeah,
I could just be here like Jim's memory.
Hey,
it's
what's up,
great
Dan?
that folks can like come and go, GRTC, DRPT. I mean, Ivan, you and Mac are there in person. I'm happy to hang on and I'll just mute and turn my camera off. Just message if anyone adds, comes in person or virtually, and I'll hop back to it if we need to. But I'm just sitting in front of the camera. I'm not sure I need to sit right here. Just message me, I guess, if something comes up.
All right, will do, man. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Martha, Miles, and everyone. We're drawing to a close here, so I just,
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
yeah,
Oh, that's right. We're online too. I mean, if you want to sign, I'll hang around, man. And,
yeah, I mean,
I'll close it
that
out.
sounds good, Ivan, and thank you. I wanted to extend thanks to Martha and Miles for everything they've done to get us, here. So hopefully they can hear the thanks. Thank you, Martha, again. Sorry, I wish I could be there in person. I do love the Richmond area, but the travel budget just doesn't support stuff at this moment in time. So you guys have been great.
Well, we equipped Mac with a whole list of restaurant recommendations for the when you do come. So we've got good food here, if nothing else.
Oh, I know that. I know that for sure. And a lot of great breweries.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Mac, don't you live in Richmond though?
That's why she said that. So,
We were comparing notes on what are the places to eat
Oh,
during break.
That's what I do in meetings, I try to find new spots that I'm not aware of. There's so many in Richmond, you always get new ones.
Yeah.
there's a lot of great food, and I would say a lot of really great, reasonably priced food, because coming from DC,
Yeah.
everything's so expensive, and then the food is better and cheaper in Richmond. I think we just have this like weird price bubble in DC where no one flinches at a $40 entree, but there's such great food and selection down in Richmond. I'm disappointed I didn't get to come in person. I would love to see those notes from either Mac and or Martha for the next time, because we come down regularly to visit and shop and entertain ourselves in that town. It's a lot of fun, and it was great to get to learn so much more about the region. So thank you